but you don't know. Nick, do you think Zion exceeded expectations in his debut last night?
Oh, given the minutes restriction, he did as well as you possibly could have done. The greatest of athletes, and Brian can speak to this from experience, me just from observation, can feel the moment and channel something a little extra special. And Zion, after being out of basketball for a few months, and anyone, you don't have to be a great athlete to know this, anyone that's played basketball at any level knows the way he was playing, where it's 3 or 4 minutes in, then to the bench, impossible to get a rhythm. It is if you've been a starter your whole life, if you've been a big-time player your whole life, what they were asking him to do, once I saw how the minutes restriction was going to go, it's not that they're going to let him play a 9-minute chunk in the first half consecutively and a 9-minute, they're going to go 4 minutes, 4 minutes. I was not surprised at all that the first 3 quarters went the way they did, with him turning the ball over, being a little uneasy, not being able to find a groove. It would be like, I imagine, a running back that's used to getting 25 to 30 carries being like, you're going to get 8 carries, you're not going to know when you're going to get them. And so I didn't think we were going to get this, but I shouldn't have doubted him, because he is a phenom. He's not just phenomenal, he is a phenom. And what he did was, after playing in this game for 3 quarters, seeing what San Antonio was doing, seeing what his team needed, he, in his first game ever as a pro, did something that former #1 overall pick Ben Simmons to this day refuses to do. Did something that it took Giannis 4 years to figure out that he could do it, and really didn't figure it out until this year. Man, if you're going to dare me to shoot, I'm going to shoot. And because he was injured, he said he spent a lot of time working on that set, kind of flat shot. And what he did was, in his first game ever, put his team on his back, pull them back into the basketball game, and if he was allowed to play longer, they would have won that game. He would have scored easily 25 points in the 4th quarter of a close game if he didn't have the minutes restriction. It was the exact way a player who I believe is going to be an all-time great, his career should begin, with an all-time great debut.
It's funny that you mentioned that, because my whole thought when I watched the game was that, coming into the game, I said, it's going to be very interesting to see how they integrate him into the basketball game. And really, early on, they didn't call any plays for him. They try to make him get his points off the board, just find a way, just float around offensively. Then in the 4th quarter, he was like, okay, this is enough. I'm going to take advantage. And you're right. That's what superstars do. They say, it's my time to shine, and now I need to do everything to help my team win. That's that clutch gene that everybody wants, the superstars actually have. The one thing I love about this team, coached by Alvin Gentry, is that usually when you have the #1 player, you go to the worst team, and you just got to try to find a way. LeBron in Cleveland, they just not about a lot of very good players around him, and LeBron had to carry this basketball team. But this team, Ingram can score. He's a consistent scorer. Drew Holiday, Lonzo Ball can handle the ball, get great shots for everyone. Zion doesn't have to come in and carry the basketball team. That's probably the best thing for him as a rookie. You know you're going to be a superstar. I don't have to come in and do everything right away. That's going to be a great thing as far as the longevity of his career.
Well, and I think this is the smarts of David Griffin and Alvin Gentry. And I don't know how many people noticed this, but in the introductions, in the NBA, the star of the team is introduced last. And if there's 2 stars, the second best player goes first. They introduced Brandon Ingram first. They introduced Drew Holiday last. They kept what they've been doing. Zion was introduced second. You might say, why does that matter? It matters for the same reason that he went to the podium with Drew, and that Drew, a veteran, a very underrated player in this league, said, hey, man, this is going to be normal for you. This is going to be every night for the next 15 years. Get used to it. What the scrutiny, the intensity, the eyeballs on you. So they know he's going to have to deal with that, but they're not upping the ante with it no, listen, Ingram's having a great season. Drew Holiday's our best player right now. You're one of the guys who's a starter and nothing more, at least in that. And I think that's smart, because Jenna, you mentioned you hope he keeps the naivete to a degree. He almost assuredly won't, because he's going to grow up, and we all grow out of it to a degree. But he's a kid.
Yeah.
He's younger than my son, who is right now, I wonder how someone 5 years older than Zion should deal with this type of moment. And he's dealt with it as well as you possibly can, including saying to Gentry, Coach, we can win this game, leave me in. And credit to the Pelicans, they did the right thing. You got to think about the 15-year window for his career and taking him out. But I thought it was great. I thought it was awesome to see. I thought it was great.
One of the biggest things, and we talk about Zion, you really compare him to Ben Simmons, first overall pick as well. The fear of failure. To me, the fear of failure has kept Ben from shooting those jump shots and kept him from saying, I don't want to shoot anything outside of the lane. In Zion's first game, he said, listen, coming into the NBA, the question was my jump shot, my ability to shoot the three. He's willing to step up, line it up, 4 for 4 from the three-point line. That was impressive.
You talked about the eye test. I'm just curious because we hadn't really seen him in the last couple of weeks. How did he look to you physically? We worried about his weight and what would happen if he wasn't playing every day. How did he look to you, eye test?
I don't think his weight's any bigger than it was. Now, if people want to argue that he needs to get smaller than he was in college, I don't think he's really done that to a degree. He looked like winded. After his first 4 minutes, he looked winded. I don't think that's because he hasn't been training. I think that's just because you haven't been playing in NBA games. But I think Brian, the eye test of that he was not afraid to do the thing that he is worst at on the court. In fact, both those things. He was a willing passer early. He's not a great passer. And you saw it in the turnovers, but he was trying to defer. He was trying to do the right thing. And he is not a knockdown shooter. But it was, one of my favorite phrases, the right basketball play. If they are going to go under screens and dare you to shoot, the lane's going to be too clogged, so put them up. And if you're making them, keep putting them up. And it is, his comps are, Blake Griffin as far as when he came in the league. Man, it took years for Blake to start shooting three-pointers. We've talked to Blake about how he had to reinvent it. I'm not acting like Brian Zion's going to be a knockdown shooter, but that he will be a willing shooter if they dare him to shoot. That is going to open things up for him and for everyone on this team. It was, after a preseason, remember, where he averaged, what did he do in the preseason? 23 in 27 minutes a game on 71% from the field. First game ever, 22 in 18 minutes on 72% from the field.
And by the way, Zion had never had more than 3 3-pointers in a game at Duke. He hits 4 last night in 3 minutes of play, so he's off to a great start. Much more on Zion coming up. On the other side, though, back to Super Bowl talk. How disappointing would a Super Bowl loss be for Nick? For Patrick Mahomes. I'm sorry. Hear from Mahomes next on FS1. You can always check us out on the Fox Sports channel on SiriusXM. We'll be right back.